I always say that you're one of the hardest working guys in show business. I always tell people that if you have like longer than a 15-minute layover at an airport, you will book a gig somehow. And so I'm really curious, how are you being productive during this lockdown time?
Yeah. Well, thanks, man. It's so good to see you. Um, we're going back now some years, me and you already. But I'm glad everything's good with you. Yeah, I'm in sunny California. It's not sunny today. We got the marine layer. It's a little gray today. But it's just it's so nice to wake up and see palm trees, and you get that vitamin D, in your system, and it just inspires you to get out and get moving. So I've been, doing runs, and I'm lucky to be quarantined with my girlfriend. So we go on a nice walk every day. We go through the nice neighborhoods. That's very meditative, and lots of coffee. I'm taking some online acting classes, and I'm doing a lot of teaching. So not only am I taking classes, I'm teaching classes. So with Zoom, and there's an app called Meet Hook. It's a MEET, and it's an app, and it's also, you just go to meethook.com, and guys like me and Kenny Aronoff and a lot of like really knowledgeable drummers and bass players and guitar players are teaching on this app. So that's been kind of good. And then I've been
Mhm.
selling this product that I filmed for 5 years ago called Drumming in the Modern World. And I thought, hey, there's going to be all these drummers. They're going to be quarantined. They're going to be just staring at their drums. Let's put this product on sale. And so I've been marketing that a lot, try to getting that into the right drummers' hands. But it's just, drumminginthemodernworld.com. It's usually $300, and I put it on sale for $99. And man, it has made a difference. People are like, yeah, $100 for almost 6 hours of like HD videos. I'm
Yeah.
in. So that's been kind of fun. Keeping my chops fresh. I have a little pad, or I get on my pillows and, do that whole thing. I haven't been really on the kit a lot. And people are like, how is that? You haven't played drums in 2 weeks? I'm like, it's cool, because once you get to the point where you have tens of thousands of hours of experience in a craft, sometimes you're not going to go backwards with your ability. It's so ingrained in your DNA. So sometimes taking 2 weeks off, doing other things, inspiring yourself in other ways, you're going to come back even fresher than before.
Yeah, yeah. No, I totally get that. So, all right, tons of stuff to go into just in just in that immediate synopsis. Um, First off, as far as the teaching that you've been doing and the online teaching, how have you adapted to teaching in this remote fashion? You know?
Yeah. Well, it's more like coaching, because there's nothing like being in the same room with a student when they're on their drums, or you're on your drums, and they're over your shoulder, or you are over their shoulder, or sometimes teachers have two drum sets that are facing each other, which is very common nowadays. But it's almost like I become a coach or a mentor. And so if somebody has me for 1 hour, I say, make sure that you write all your questions down, because that hour, you will not believe it, is going to go so fast. So some people want to know, like, what does my technique look like? What's going on here with this pinky? Should it be sticking out, or should I move my ride cymbal? Or I'll have them play a groove, and I'll listen to it, and I'm like, oh, okay, we'll try this. So it's almost like you're a coach. And then the other side of it is really being like a life coach and or business coach, where I get a lot of people who are like, how do I get from point A to point B in the music business? I'm in my bedroom in Des Moines. I'm going to graduate with my 4-year degree in college. Or, hey, I'm a street player in Simi Valley, and I want to do more things in Los Angeles and play the Viper Room and play the whiskey. Like, how do I do that? And so you just kind of like address where everybody is in their life, and kind of give them some guidance as to where they can go, and some steps and some things that worked for me. So that hour goes really fast. And for a
Yeah.
guy like me, I'm like the crash course guy. So it's like, you have me for 1 hour, I'm going to just inundate you with information you can use for the rest of your life. I'm not necessarily seeing the same kids at the same time every week. I've done that kind of teaching before when I was a younger man in college. But I actually like being the guy that just comes in with the right hook and leaves.
Yeah. And I mean, speaking of all of that, One thing has always impressed me about you is you have this amazing ability to adapt to changing times. And in the time that you've been a professional musician, the music industry has gone through some massive swings and changes.
Yeah.
And yet, you've adapted, every time you started off again, making this drumming in the modern world as a DVD, but then switched it over to digital when all that happened.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm just, curious because it seems very applicable as someone who's become quite expert at adapting to new situations. What's your advice for, musicians coming up during this time, or for anyone, who's looking, that needs to pivot how they work, how they live, during this bizarre
Mm.
time?
Yeah. Well, man, it's a great point you bring up, and man, I appreciate it. Yeah, like, God, even just the recording industry in Nashville was healthy when I moved there in 1997, and it was healthy for a long time. And then then Napster, and then now you have all the file sharings with your Spotify's and your Pandoras, and so the music business has been hit in that sense, since that there's less traditional recording sessions going on. So recording musicians that would never even think about getting on a tour bus are getting on tour buses and squeezing themselves into bunks and going out with your Bob Segers or your Trisha Yearwoods or some sort of a weekend warrior. They go, yeah, I get 3 meals a day. Somebody sets up my drums. I make this extra cash. I get to tap into that thing with the original reason I got into music. So I think the multitasking thing has become a standard, and that was always my business model. My business model was to always have multiple revenue streams. So just say you're a teacher. You can teach in person in your city. I teach in person on the road. So doing private lessons or master classes or clinics at your Sam Ash's and your guitar centers and your mom and pop music stores and your colleges and your high schools. So, looking at my tour dates and finding out where I can actually teach somewhere and setting all that up ahead of time. And then you could also teach online. You can have teaching products. Recording, you can record in traditional studios that are up the street on Music Row, or here in Los Angeles. There's lots, I have my bucket list. I've recorded at Sunset Sound, but I still want to do East West, Capitol, Henson. I still have my little bucket list of places that I want to record at. And then you can have it's an expectation to have a recording set up in your place now. And it could be your house. It could be a separate, in California, there's a lot of, garages that become like guest houses or parent suites, and a lot of guys turn those into recording studios. For
Hmm.
me, when I'm in Los Angeles, I have a place in Nashville called Crash Studio, so I can just walk into this man cave in my pajamas and have all these gorgeous drum sets set up, snare drums and tons of cymbals and percussion I've collected from around the world, and I can record, send you the track. And in LA, I have 2 studios that I use, and then I just create a budget, and then I just pay the person per hour for letting me use that facility. So it's about like solving problems. We're in the business of solving problems for people, and then being able to monetize your ability to put out those fires.
Yeah, no, and I think that's a really good point. Is the whole idea that there's more than one path, no matter what your particular goal is. And I think what's cool about what you've accomplished is you've kept your options open to multiple paths. Again, if it's teaching, you can do it in person, online, et cetera, et cetera. But also,
Mhm.
I think what's cool is you've proven you can pursue multiple paths at the same time.
Yeah, it's some extreme multitasking going on. And the old adage is that, those that do, those that can't teach. There's that thing. And then there's the whole, he's a slave to a million masters, or what is it? Jack of all trades, master of none, right? So
Yeah.
nowadays you have to be a jack of all trades, master of all, which creates more pressure on yourself to be structured, to be methodical, to give all these different pursuits the right time so you can develop these things. And not only do you have to spend the time to get good at doing these things, but you have to let the world know that you do those things, and that you're up against all the noise of all the other people that do those things.
Hmm.
So everything I do is like, I'm a crazy person for even being in this industry, because everything I do is practically time for money. If I'm not actually physically present or involved in some way with that project, I don't get paid. So I have to be recording, I have to be touring, I have to be teaching, I have to be acting, I have to be speaking. Those all take me, I have to physically be there or be on some sort of a, a meeting digital platform like this. But it's not like I can just be sleeping and making money. Like back 20 years ago, a songwriter could write 5, hit songs and make $5 million
Mm.
and invest that wisely and sleep very peacefully at night. Whereas guys that do what I do, we're like, okay, we got to get up tomorrow. Here's the to-do list. And it's all, I mean, I know what I'm going to be doing every hour of today. It's exhausting. And sometimes I just want to go to a desert island and just, you know, drink coconut water.
Right. Well, and along those lines, because talking with various musicians who, like you, had extensive music education, in your case, in the schools in Texas and in, the university there. But one common thread I've found is a a lot of what's missing from a lot of music education is this business acumen, which
Yeah.
you've developed. And I'm curious, what do you think has really helped you develop that? And B, is there any advice you can offer to those coming up who, again, are not necessarily getting this in their music school, but as you've proven, you need to be a businessman, you need to know these things.
Yeah. I think a lot of it comes in the creative arts is going to come down to, these things that we learn in kindergarten, which is to be kind, to be pleasant, to be likable, open doors for your friends, share, pay things forward, help your neighbor, like all these things that we kind of like forget about as we get older and life starts to kick us in the butt and things get more competitive. But it still comes down to that. No one is going to hire me to play the drums until they buy into me as a person, and people are going to hire people that they know, like, and trust. So that's on you to be a likable person, whatever that is. I know there's books that have been written on it, the science of likability and all that kind of stuff, but it's like, do people enjoy spending time with you? When I play music, I'm only playing for about an hour and a half a day. There's a short sound check, and the rest of that time is those 22 hours on the tour bus, in the dressing room, on airplanes, at airports. And so you have to be kind of like a flexible, pleasant person. And I think that probably goes for everything in life. If you're on a movie set, if you're waiting to speak for a client, so if somebody hires me to speak, I've got to do a meeting with the CEO or as high up as I can get and find out what their culture is like and what they're expecting from me and how long is my speech going to be and things to say and not to say. And so it's always going to be about people. And then I had somebody give me a compliment the other day, and I didn't know, it didn't come off as a compliment, but she said, I mean this in the best possible way. She goes, "You're an extreme bullshitter." And I was like, "What?" Like, like the guy on the corner that's like, "Hey kid, I got watches for sale." But no, she goes, "You're a bullshitter in the sense that you are fearless. You will take on any challenge, and you are unapologetic about the things that you do." And I think you're going to have so many, if you own what you do, you're passionate about something, you owe it, you shout it from a mountaintop, you are going to have so many haters. And if you have haters, you're doing something right, because it shows the world that you are unafraid and unapologetic to do what you want to do, because you only get one life. And I'm coming up on 50, and I say to myself, wow, it was yesterday that I was 40. My friends took me out. They bought me that cool flat screen TV, the first flat screen TV I ever had. My friends bought it for me. Now, this is already 10 years later. Think about it. I'm probably only going to get to do that 2.5 more times, maybe 3 more times. I get to do a 10-year period. So it's like the Twisted Sister video. What are you going to do with your life? Right? And it's like,
Yeah.
I don't know if you ever think that way. It's like, I don't want to be grim, but it's like 30 years. I'm staring at 30 years. How am I going to spend that time?
And I know what your friend was talking about. I don't think bullshitter is the correct term, though. I mean, I understand what she was going for, but I think it's more a matter of, you're just someone who has his foot constantly pressed down on the gas pedal. And you're not going to let fear stand in your way of trying things. Um,
Mm.
and in the same respect, you're also known throughout the music community for your optimism. Hell, Stanford University gave you a freaking award for your optimism, which you know that says,
Ah,
yeah.
that's so cool.
And, which it's like, wow, okay, this, it's being recognized in the university system now. And so, especially nowadays when people are really looking for that optimism, that positivity, I'm really curious, what does the world look like through your filter, especially nowadays?
Mm. Yeah. I mean, well, we've never experienced anything like this in our lifetime. I don't think that you and I are around in 1918. You know, and I think I don't know if we're going to be around for the next Halley's Comet. I mean, it's very whoa. This time thing, you only get a certain amount of time. But hey, it's like this is happening. The only thing you could do is control, what you can control, which is like they say, stay at home, stay at home. You figure out how to work out. You wash your hands a lot. I mean, some people are not even going to the grocery stores. My girlfriend Kara goes to the grocery stores because she's just like, I know what I want. I got my mask. I got my gloves. I'm going in. It's like a sting operation. And then other people are like just having food delivered, but then at the same time, you got to like clean the bags and clean the packaging. And it's like, it's just, I think we're going to, after this all comes and goes, we're just going to be much more consistently concerned about germs and washing our hands and like the path of what everybody like next time I get into an Uber car, I'm thinking to myself, who touched that handle? Who touched that door lock? Who was sitting here? Did they sneeze here? Are the particles still in the air? It's like it's a lot. It really is a lot. But where's the world going? I'm just trying to work on the things that I can control. I don't want to rot on the vine. At the very least, I want to, when I go back to play the drums, I want to have that same, I mean, next time I get to play the drums with my friends, that is going to feel so good, you know?
Yeah.
And so we never want to take these things for granted because like, look at that. Here I thought that I was going to play a show on that Thursday night. And then we get the news, Live Nation, we're canceling these 3 shows. We got to shut this thing down for a while. And then I watched the whole thing explode. So I'm just trying to stay sharp up here in my mind, keep my body together, my flexibility, my mobility, my strength, my heart health. So when I get back to playing the drums, I'm going to be rocking, watching a lot of TV shows, studying actors, taking my classes. And then this is a great time in the world. If you're a creative person or you're running a business, it's a great time to update all your assets. So like I'm updating my acting reel, my voiceover reel, my speaking reel, my drumming reel, making sure everything is just top notch and is state of the art, ready to go. Everything's updated. So when life returns to normal, you're not behind. You're right there.
Yeah. And then, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that a lot of this advice is in your book. Let's see if I can hold it up correctly here.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Coincidentally, you have a
You
copy.
too can be an author. Thanks to Amazon.com and Jeff Bezos, anybody can be an author.
Right.
And it's a great thing because you're in control of everything. So yeah, the book Crash Course for Success, 5 Ways to Supercharge Your Personal and Professional Life. It's been out for about a year and it's in 3 formats. And I'm really happy that I popped that cherry, that I checked that box. It was just like, I'm gonna put this book out. It's in physical form, it's in digital form. I recorded the Audible version. So I was gonna say, you could take me to the gym, you could take me on your trip, but no one's leaving the house, which is a great time to catch up on all this stuff. But I'm so glad that I did that. And then maybe by the end of this year, it should be my goal, crank out another book. I know exactly what the acronym is going to be. That book system, dummies, anything for dummies.
Mm-hmm.
Well, my version of anything for dummies is everything that I do is going to be based on a 5-letter acronym. So the next book's going to be all about the power concept. And so I just want to put out these little books that are like, easy to read, easy to digest. You learn, you laugh, you come away going, oh man, I really enjoyed that. The same way I want to approach my drumming, the way I want to approach my drumming education events, the same way I want to approach anything I do. Is I want people to go, wow, there's an hour of my life that flew by and I really enjoyed it.
Hmm. And one thing I've always been curious about, because a lot of this book was you taking things that you talk about in your speaking events with corporations, as well as when you talk to up and coming musicians, and condensing it and putting it all into this handy version. But what I'm curious about is, what did you personally learn from going through the experience of writing and publishing a book?
Yeah. Well, you learn really quickly that it takes a lot longer if you try to do it yourself. But like most things I do in life, when I try to do something, I send up a flare gun and I say, like, who understands this, or who has already done this? So when I wrote my first book, which is kind of a drumming book for kids, Fundamentals of Drumming for Kids, I wrote it with a co-author, my friend Michael Albrecht, who had already written like 12 books on like sports and the Civil War. So he already understood that process. So he held my hand through the process. Now, in doing this book, I had a co-author who helped me get things out of my cranium and out of my own way, to be a third party, a different set of ears, helped me get it down on paper. Then there was an editor, and then there's a graphic design person, and then you have to work with the people at Amazon and Audible, and it's always going to take longer than you think. But I definitely learned that there was a little bit of paralysis in this process, because I said, this is my first book and it has to be flawless. It has to be perfect. I mean, look at there's guys like, Gary Vee and Grant Cardone, and they crank out these books, and sometimes there's little typos or the grammar could be better or whatever, but it's like, they're just cranking content out for people. So I said, get off your ass. This is it. This is the version. Put it out. You can always update it. You can always write another book. It's
Hmm.
just a snapshot in time. It's like a record. It's like Jason's first record. He has a baby voice. This was like before cigarettes and whiskey and the road, right? So he
Yeah.
sounds like a baby. And so that's just a snapshot in time. And then you go forward on 8 records later to our 9th record, his voice has evolved and changed. It's richer in character. And all of us as musicians, we grew our concept in how to play this music. And if you're not growing and developing, you're dying a slow
Hmm.
death, right? So you always want to be developing, even if it's just incremental. Every day you want to be a little bit better than the previous day.
Yeah. And all right, well, I think even that adds to clarifying a little bit better what your friend was saying. Again, don't don't think bullshitter is the correct term. It's more along the lines of, A, you take these leaps of faith in your life, and B, um you know that you can try things again. And so I think that that's like a perfect example of why you've been able to do so much, accomplish so much, is like, okay, let's give this a try. We can always improve upon it next time, but you got to put yourself out there and actually give yourself that green light, and not just stay at home and, oh, I'm still in planning stages,
Yeah, well, yeah, it's like there's another old movie. It's a Michael Mann film called Collateral with Jamie Foxx and Tom Cruise, and it's one of these movies. It's like Papillon or Alien, where it never gets old. If it's on, I'm going to watch it all the way through, and it's it's a whole thing where Jamie Foxx plays this cab driver in Los Angeles, and he's got this picture of this desert island that he wants to live on someday, and he's keeps telling everybody, "Oh, I'm just doing this part-time until I can get my company off the ground. I'm gonna have a limo service, smooth grooves, and it's gonna be beautiful. It's gonna be white limos." And he's been driving the cab for 12 years. He's never gonna create a limo company. It's like, you just got to set your sights on something, maybe put a time limit on it, right?
Yeah.
And start to execute. Even something as simple as when to move to Nashville, because Nashville is one of the last places for the music business. I tell everybody, it's like choo choo, last stop. It's like, yes, there's music happening in other cities, but not like Nashville, where right now a song is being written. Somebody has to record that song. It gets to a Dan Huff. He re-records it for a Keith Urban. Keith Urban gets it to his band. And then there's the caterers and the truck drivers and the stage managers and the rigging guys and this whole machinery of the music business. And then we go out there and we bring the music to the people, right? And it takes all these cogs of the wheel. And so people are like, man, I want to do that. I want to move to Nashville. And I say, well, great. Put the date on your calendar that you want to go, and then you work backwards. When do I have to have my house packed up? When do I have to have the U-Haul truck? How long is it going to take to get there? Do I have first and last month's rent in the new city? Like, plan it, stick to it, and execute. Otherwise, you'll be like, no, it's not the right time. You know, I got to paint the fence. My dog's got diarrhea. We're having our seventh baby. You know, there's never a good time.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, and in that same vein, you know, we need to talk about the fact that this past year you started your own talk show, which is a massive undertaking, I feel,
yeah.
and you know, and you're already up to like episode 53. I think you've recorded 53 episodes.
Yeah, it's crazy. I think I've recorded like 80 episodes, and we just drip them out like 2 a week, so Mondays and Fridays, or Tuesdays and Saturdays, depending on what kind of weekend my co-host Jim McCarthy has.
Yeah.
If he's having a ripping Sunday, we're not going to release on Monday. Well, it might be Tuesday, but it just speaks to the fact that when you really double down on a concept and you can hyper focus, you're like, wow, I turned around. I had 53 episodes of this thing. I tried putting out a podcast years ago called Pick Rich's Brain, and in a 2-year period, I only released 19 episodes. So there were a lot of people that loved it, but they were like, can you do this more often? We want consistent, and that's what the podcast world wants, is they want 1 episode a week, 2 episodes a week. And so once we committed to that and then found the right format with my co-host Jim McCarthy, you know, we created the Rich Redmond Show, and it's like, this is a combination. It's a tip of a hat to a late night talk show with a lot of the crazy, you know, get your coffee sound effects of a morning show.
Mm-hmm.
And then, but it's a podcast. It's a podcast, and we happen to film it, you know, and it is a tip of a hat to a late night set. But
what
yeah.
I think, and what makes it more impressive, because, you know, again, you talked about, the podcast, and there's lots of people that start podcasts and they never follow through. It starts off with the best of intentions and then just kind of peters out. And this is even for people who are it's just one-on-one, them and the camera. You took things up another level with the Rich Redmond Show, in that you have all of these guests, in-person guests, no less, you know, coming through, I can't think of his name, the lead singer for Three Doors Down, you know.
Oh yeah, Brad Arnold.
Right, yeah. Everyone from him to Victoria Jackson from Saturday Night Live, and you know, that's what's impressive to me, is you up the level and then are putting out even more. And I'm curious, you know, how does one go from, you know, dead stop to suddenly booking all these guests and recording on a regular basis?
Yeah. Well, thanks, man. It has been so eye-opening and fun. You know, a lot of people say, something as simple as like, how do I do drum clinics, Rich? And I say, well, what I did is I created a Facebook page that was called Crash Course for Success. I came up with the title, Crash Course for Success. Now my drum clinic is not just Rich Redmond Drum Clinic. It's Crash Course for Success. And then there's a Facebook page that goes with it. And then I'm going to go out there and I'm going to go teach as much as humanly possible. While I'm doing it, I'm going to video it. I'm going to audio record it. I'm going to get video testimonials. I'm going to get a thing going to where there's a buzz happening here, to where I get enough things where I can build this thing. And it started off as free. And I think I got up to $250. I gave myself a raise, and I tried to get $500 a clinic. And then the folks at DW were like, no, Rich, you need to be at least at $750. And you just give yourself raises. And then it speaks to the idea of like putting a dollar amount on your time and talent, and you just build it. And it's the same thing with like putting a podcast together. Well, you got to name it. Then you got to register it with all the podcasting, sources. So you get it, you put it on Libsyn. Libsyn distributes it to all the platforms. You got to have a logo. I commissioned my friend to write a theme song. Got to get a co-host. Okay, then you got your physical space. Does it sound good? Does it look good? I got lighting. I got a table. I got all the microphones. I had to get a sign made. Now you're in business. Okay, what's the format of the show? How long is it going to be? Who are your guests going to be? So I was lucky in the sense that I've got 23 years in Nashville. And then if I never, ever make a phone call through a publicist or do anything official like that, I could just have my interesting high-level friends on that I can just text in my phone. That is a beautiful thing, but I'm hoping to get it to the point where the goal is to be selling more ads for more money. Like right now we have the School of Rock. They're first on the scene. They're true believers. They're the official title sponsor of our show. And then I want to get it to the point where, it's almost like Mark Maron is like the holy grail. It's like, can I actually someday get Spotify, YouTube, Starbucks, Levi's to sponsor my show? Well, that's the goal. And that's if I keep everything in total control. But then somebody else can come along, maybe like a Sirius or a cable television show, and go with the cigar. And the guy comes with the cigar and goes, "Hey, kid, yeah, you look good. You sound good. Here, host this show, or we'll buy it from you," or something. So I don't know. I'm just open to the possibilities.
Yeah. And, it's funny because people see you now many years down the line and they think, oh, well, he was always connected, or, this was always kind of an easy thing for him. And I don't think people acknowledge that, like you were talking about with the drum clinics, you started from square one, nothing. There was nothing handed to you about this. And it was all a matter of figuring things out as you went along. Is there any, because I know people want to skip that step. They always want to cut the line and try and, I just want to skip up to the end where, it's just me and being flown around in a private jet. But I'm assuming there is no skipping that step. And I don't know, I'm thinking you wouldn't want to, because haven't you learned so much through that process that, you wouldn't have otherwise known?
Yeah. I mean, and people, that's the first thing they say is, that sounds like a lot of hard work, and it's like, I have a chapter in the book where I talked about when I was doing those drum clinics. And so we had our flip phones, and it was like the year was 2005. And we were 12 guys on a tour bus going down the highway. And I would be on that flip phone, and I would be like selling myself to the university at the school we were going to play in a month, and say, look at, hi, my name's Rich Redmond. I play with a guy named Jason Aldean. We have a top 20 hit on the radio. I play in the 1 O'Clock Lab Band at North Texas State, and I have a free drum clinic. All I need is a place to do it, and tell your students to show up. I have a drum set, everything, it's free. And they go, wow. Now, here's the kicker. Some people are so lazy that they don't even want to make the extra effort to have you come in and do something that has extreme value like that for their students, because they would have to go and get the recital hall reserved, and they would have to make the effort to send emails to their students. I mean, this is crazy. You're a university professor trying to teach these kids how to make a living in the music business, and the first thing you're failing them is showing them your lack of hustle, right?
Yeah.
So, but anyways, yeah, that's what I did, and I built that thing, and it was exhausting. And so the bus would pull into that city, the host would pick me up, I would take my drums out of the bay of the bus. I had 2 sets of drums, one in the bay of the bus, one in the trailer. And so then I would go and I would set up and I would do sound check for the drum clinic that day. Then I would come back to the venue, clean, tune, change heads on Aldean's kit, because I didn't have a drum tech for the first 7 years. I did it all myself.
Wow.
I would set those up, do the sound check, go back to the drum shop, do that clinic, break those drums down, take them back, load them back into the bay of the bus, do Aldean's show, break those drums down. So I was breaking down 3 sets of drums every single day for years at a time with no help.
Wow. And
Yeah.
well, that makes me wonder what keeps you going through all that early time when it is so hard. And again, it's one thing that always annoys me is often the people that sell the myth of the overnight success.
Mhm.
And um I think even people will look at your career and they forget, no, there was a lot of years spent, in the trenches. And just like you said, years without a drum tech and doing it all on your own. What keeps you going through those difficult times, because when a lot of other people would give up.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate it, and I realized that I had a platform with Aldean. I mean, you've got like four guys that started this thing off together. Me, Kurt, Tully, Jason. We were like, man, we were like uh, troubadours, man, and we were thick as thieves, and we built something together, and we leaned on each other. And I realized, hey, on the road, idle time is the devil's playground. I was not a saint. I mean, we partied like Motley Crue for a couple years there. We did everything but snort fire ants. And it was, and we were never a drug band. It was just like everybody, like, in country music, it's a cocktail culture. Everybody likes to have their whiskey and all that kind of stuff. And thank God I came out the other side of it, no problems. But it's like when you have something that you're passionate about and you're interested in, and you're focused during the day. So it's like setting up and cleaning these drums, doing a drum clinic, building my own personal brand, making sure that I get my workouts in, that I stay focused, and I have the energy to play that show at night and give Aldean and the guys. It just gave me purpose. And I had my heroes that I modeled myself after, guys that have been guests on your show, the Liberty DeVitos and the Kenny Aronoffs and the Carmine Appices and the Greg Bissonets. These were my guys that I aspired to. They were heroes of mine. And I said, if they can do it, I can do it. And so it's almost like they were passing a ball. And now I helped create something, and now kids are unbelievable. But they say like, oh, you're a big hero to me, and I have your poster on my wall, and I saw you at this clinic, and you were nice to me, and you gave me your sticks, and it's like almost brings me to tears. It's like you pass the ball, and you pass the torch. And it's so cool to be part of that culture. Now I'm part of the historical timeline of percussion educators. It's a great thing, man. I have a newly redesigned richredmond.com. And if you guys go to the shop page and you're a drummer, you can go and you could download like 10 records of transcriptions for free. It's my COVID gift to you. And it'll end up being, if you print everything out, like a book that thick of all these like transcriptions, which are essentially the drum part from any Aldean record, from any song on any Aldean record, it's transcribed, which is it's like Western classical notation. So if like a violin player, that's what they would have on their music stand. And so that's my gift to you. You guys can have it. And then Drumming in the Modern World is on sale, and the book's at Amazon. And I sound like a snake oil salesman, but I would love your support on this stuff because I'm not working right now, man. But no, hopefully we'll be back on the road bringing our unique brand of country rock music to people. Hopefully it'll be this year and not 2021.
Yeah.
And I think what you're doing is great. All these interviews you're doing with musicians is such a valuable resource. Everyone from Fred, Crazy Fred from Cowboy Mouth to who did you have recently? Joey from Theory of a Dead Man.
Yeah, and most of these people I think I met because of you, actually.
That's
But
crazy.
the also the most a recent one that you definitely helped set up was Chris Fryer from the Zach Brown Band. And he could not say enough about you and your drum camps, which he has participated in, and talked about how much he enjoyed being a presenter at, and B, how much even he learned from being there.
That is so sweet. Yeah, we had some really nice camps for about 4 or 5 years there. And that's another thing that's like pivoting and changing is it's people don't necessarily have that extra financial wherewithal to like go for 3 days, and it's worth every penny. But it's just music education is a tough sell now. It really is. It's like the programs are disappearing from the schools, and now we're not even going to school. So like, how are people playing music together? It's a really interesting time. We're gonna hopefully look back at this time in human history and laugh. We're like,
Yeah.
we got through it. Oh my God, we did it.